After 18 years of marriage, I just found out that my children aren't mine. My wife Kelly and I have known each other for over 20 years and have been married for 18 years. We have 17-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, and I just found out that they aren't mine 2 days ago. My kids got those ancestry tests for the family, and we found out that I'm not their father. Oof. Kelly and I met each other as co-workers at a job right out of college. We both were very ambitious, so after working for a couple of years, we decided to start our own business. We fell in love, and a year after starting our business, we got married. A couple of months into marriage, we had a massive fight over the direction that we wanted to take our business in, and I left our home. She came to me a couple of weeks later, and we compromised. We have been inseparable ever since. Kelly also got pregnant around that time. We've been through thick and thin, our business has been through several hardships, but we weathered them together. We were always there for each other. We could always depend on each other. I loved her so much. She was a part of me, and I couldn't even imagine a life without her. I trusted her absolutely until this happened. Kelly has been crying and apologizing constantly. She told me that during the time we had that fight at the start of our marriage, she got drunk one night and slept with a random guy, and that she has not cheated on me since. The betrayal has left me disoriented. I told Kelly that I needed time to process this, and I'm currently staying at a hotel. I don't know what I'm even doing anymore. The last 2 days have been a blur. I feel like a zombie, completely unable to feel or process anything. I don't intend to abandon my kids. I might not be their father, but I'm still their dad, and I love them dearly. Right now I'm sitting on my hotel bed, and I have not eaten anything today. My thoughts are a mess, so I'm writing this down to help me process. Kelly has always been a great wife and an excellent business partner. I don't know if I'll be able to look at her the same again, or if I'll be the same person again. I don't know how to move forward. And now in the comments, you need to eat. Get some of your favorite food and eat just a little before you do or take anything. They call it comfort food for a reason. I found out my dad wasn't my dad after taking the Ancestry DNA test. My mother said she doesn't remember. Edit. She said she doesn't remember who my father is. After I asked her, she blocked me on social media and hasn't had contact with me in over 3 years. What? That is one bombshell of a secret, that one. Oh my god. My aunt went to her grave without telling my cousin who her real dad was. We mostly suspected she didn't know. She was severely alcoholic when my cousin was conceived. But she basically maintained that it was one guy who it couldn't have been, and never changed her story. Finally, my cousin did Ancestry or 23andMe, and found a guy who didn't know my aunt's name, but recalled an encounter outside of a disco bar where my aunt frequented. And my cousin is his spitting image. Not to mention her half-siblings are startlingly identical to her. Oh, to be a star-crossed lover outside of a disco bar. Where has the time gone? Simpler times they were. Kinda the same thing here. Grandma on my dad's side, his mother, had an affair while her husband was in the Navy during World War II. Both he and I look nothing like that side of the family. Pictures of him when he was little, pictures of me when I was little, and all the way up through today. She knew the guy and took it to her grave. But back then, no one talked of such things. My grandma on my mum's side took who the father of her oldest was to her grave. She would get very angry when people tried to draw it out of her by doing math on how long she was married to grandpa, etc. When Ancestry became a thing, my cousin immediately jumped on the bandwagon and ended up getting a hit. Traced it to a guy who used to live next door to my grandma with his wife and kids. Right around the time my grandma became pregnant, he up and moved his family to New Jersey, which might as well have been another continent for the 1930s. So we now have the who, just not the how, which I think might be a much darker story judging by her reactions over the years I spent with her. Alright, I'm gonna move on to some other comments. We were on a break! She's snake as hell for that. His wife kept a secret for 18 years. I would never go back if I was him. She would have never told him, and he only found out through novelty DNA testing. First things first, you gotta take care of yourself. Get something to eat, relax and watch TV. Just unwind a little. You've had a rough bit of news, and that is world-shattering for anyone to have to deal with. You need to focus on yourself right now. Just give yourself what you need, and you will figure this out when you have time. It's already been 17 years. Another year won't hurt. When you're ready, you can tell your wife what you are going to do. If she only cheated the one time, then that's up to you if it's too much or not. That's not my business to say, but you could have a family here if you work at it and if you want to keep it together. This is a great comment. Make your decision, the biggest of your life, in a frame of mind where you're at least physically okay, eating and sleeping, etc. I'm sorry this happened to you, but those are still your kids, and life is not always black and white. And to top it off, this is a perfect episode of Jerry Springer. The story in this post is so screwed up, it makes me not want to date ever again. And now, onto the update. Thank you for the overwhelming response I got on my post. I just wrote it down to clear my head and get my thoughts in order. The day after my post, I called my children and told them I loved them. They were scared that I might leave them. I told them that they are still my children, even though I'm not their biological father, and that I won't be abandoning them. I just needed to think about my relationship with their mother. I saw several comments telling me that they are not my children because they don't have my DNA, but it matters very little to me. I raised them and they are my children. I spent a lot of time thinking about how to move forward with Kelly after that. I was angry that she hid the fact that she slept with someone else after we got married. I calmed down and really thought about the whole situation. I really wanted to call my lawyer to talk about separation, but I kept thinking about our life together. So I decided to talk to Kelly and give her a chance. I called her and went back home the next day. My kids were thrilled to see me, and we spent some time together. Kelly and I went up to our room after that. I didn't speak to her properly since we saw the results. I gave her time to talk. Kelly told me that it had never occurred to her that the kids couldn't be mine. She told me that when we had the fight early in our marriage, she was angry at me leaving over a business dispute, and after waiting for me to return, she went to a bar one day and got wasted. She picked up some guy and didn't remember much that happened that night. The guy was gone before she woke up the next day, and she felt extremely guilty after that. She wanted to tell me, but was afraid that I would leave her. To be fair, I was a hot-headed and stubborn guy back then, so I probably would have filed for a divorce without a second thought. To her, it was a drunken mistake that would have never come out, so she didn't want to risk our marriage, and I would have never found out about it if she didn't get pregnant that night. She broke down multiple times and apologized constantly throughout the conversation. I believe her story. Kelly has been my rock and partner throughout my life, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her. We trusted each other absolutely. This ordeal has made a massive dent in my belief in her as a wife, but I still trust her as a partner. We had long conversations about our future, and I told her I was willing to give us a chance. I made it clear that we might not succeed and I might leave, but I was willing to try. I assured my children that no matter what happened with my marriage, I would always love them and be their father. We decided to give marriage counseling a try. My wife asked a therapist friend of hers, and she recommended a counselor. We have appointments starting next week. And now in the comments, that's both a heartbreaking and heart-reaffirming story. You are a very strong man to be able to deal with this. It warms my heart to know that your love for your kids transcends DNA. You were there for their skinned knees, sickness, soccer wins, all of it. DNA doesn't matter. The accepted love of a good father is all that matters. You're a good man, and whatever you and Kelly work through or eventually decide on, you have everybody's love and health in your heart and care. I'm gonna level with you here, dude, as there is a lot of aggressive and insensitive comments on here given the mental state you're in, but I'm gonna frame the paragraph above to you from a different perspective. She said that the thought never crossed her mind that the pregnancy could be the other guy's at that time, but if she was willingly and actively trying to keep it hidden from you, like she admits, then surely the possibility would have crossed her mind at least once. But the thing that makes this even worse, in my eyes, is that she openly admits she took your choice away from you. She knew she had been unfaithful and that you wouldn't react well to the news. Any man or woman has a right to be angry in those circumstances. If she had chosen to give you that knowledge, you could have then acted how you saw fit to make a decision on your future when you learned she was pregnant with another man's children. Instead, she chose to lie. Now the last 18 years of your life has a dark cloud hanging over it. That is an incredible amount of time to take from someone. Like people have said in other comments, you're a better man than me, because in my honest opinion, you have every right to be angry and not give her a chance or a choice in the matter. She never gave you one. She definitely had the thought, if I tell him, what if he thinks the kids are not his biologically? What if the kids aren't his? 1,000,000 times over since the birth as well. No way, that has never crossed her mind. I respect your decision, OP, but I personally don't think the truth has fully surfaced yet. There is more to the story. I love how OP dealt with the kids. He seems like a good person. Many of the comments on the original were telling him to leave his wife and abandon the kids because they weren't his. I'm happy that OP didn't listen to any of that. I hope his marriage succeeds. Me too. I was reading and surprised myself by thinking this family can heal from this. He just has to get his butt back home. I was shocked at how relieved I was that he didn't go nuclear, as Reddit loves to suggest. This is way better than that story where the guy straight up left his 3-year-old because it turned out he wasn't the biological dad. Like, I get it, you may want to leave your partner for cheating, but it horrified me that he could so easily leave a kid that he raised as his own for 3 years and not want to see them ever again. Our next post is titled, HOA being difficult because I host support group meetings in my own home. So for the last 18 years, I have been a member of an organizer of a support group for trauma survivors. The room we were using for our meetings in a nearby church was recently flooded and badly damaged, and I haven't been able to find another suitable room for our meetings due to the pandemic. Not wanting the group members to be deprived of an important resource, I decided to host some meetings in my basement or in a secluded area of my garden with a reduced number of attendees. We respect social distancing rules, wear masks, sanitize our hands and everything. This came to the knowledge of the HOA board. A few weeks ago, some HOA board members knocked on my door and told me they weren't pleased with this at all. They told me that people in the neighborhood feel unsafe knowing that drug addicts gather at my house. I told them that our support group is not for people fighting addiction, or maybe some of them are but they don't tell me, but for trauma survivors, and that this would stop as soon as we could go back to the church. They weren't convinced and called me inconsiderate and asked me to stop. I didn't because I consider that I have a right to invite people to my house and talk to them. Yesterday, I received a strongly worded letter from the HOA demanding that I stop inviting drug addicts to gather at my house because it puts everyone in danger, and they are not the kind of people that we want in the neighborhood. They said I had a chance to make things right, but didn't, so they are fining me $500. They will fine me for every meeting I organize from now on and threaten me with a lien on my house if I don't pay the fines. The reason they invoke is that the meetings are breaching the peace of the neighborhood and making people unsafe. This is completely untrue. Our meetings are 6 to 7 people at max, we don't make noise, we don't drink, people park on my driveway or on legal spots in the street. We cause absolutely no disturbance. I checked the HOA rules, and I can't seem to find which one I would be breaking. Does the HOA have any right to stop me from organizing meetings at my house? I don't see how our support group is any different from having a few guests at my house. The HOA is run by people who don't seem to know what they are doing, and I think they would stop harassing me if I had real legal arguments to oppose. Thank you for your advice. Now in the comments, this is complicated, and a firm answer would probably require a detailed reading of your HR's CC&Rs by a lawyer, but there's a decent chance they can do this. The fact that the HOA is run by people who don't seem to know what they're doing is largely irrelevant. Many HOA rules are written in such a way to exclude just the sort of activities you're engaging in, namely bringing other people into the neighborhood on a regular basis. I could run through a list of possible reasons they'll feed you. It's a business run out of the home. Even though you don't get paid, it's an unlicensed social club, you can't prove that you are really doing social distancing, etc. But at the end of the day, they don't want undesirables with no clear link to a resident coming regularly into their space, and they will throw fines at you until you stop. You would need a lawyer to get a firm answer though. I agree with this. OP might want to attempt to fight it with a harassment or discrimination claim, but depending on the attorney's strategies, that could be a huge risk for them and for their neighborhood. Personally, I would stop hosting the meetings if it was causing the rumor mill to run, but I would still meet with an attorney to address the fact that the board participated in and took action to place restrictions on my right to invite guests to my home based on rumors that I, a member of the association, am a drug addict and that my guests are drug addicts. This is highly probable to lead to further harassment and discrimination from neighbors. And OP says to that, yes, I might have to stop the meetings, and it's what really saddens me. Some members have a hard time dealing with the added stress from the pandemic, and our meetings provide much needed relief. I don't even want to go to court or anything, I just want to have the possibility to help people who need it and don't bother anyone. What rules do they say that you're violating? Request a hearing and refute their claims. Ultimately, it is possible the HOA can restrict this in a number of ways. Limiting guest parking, not allowing non-residential use, etc. But whether or not you are violating the rules as they are written depends on the specific rules. And OP says, they don't even say what rules I'm supposed to be breaking. Everything is very vague, which makes me think that they have no idea what they are doing. Someone must have spread the rumor that we are addicts and it scared them. They are older people who always lived in a quiet neighborhood and are scared of everyone. And now on to the update. I pushed back, and my HOA stopped harassing me about hosting my support group meetings. So I wrote back to the HOA to dispute the fines and sent a polite but firm letter asking them to show me precisely which rule I'm supposed to be breaking, as I was advised by commenters in here. I also pretended that I feel insulted that they are calling me and the group members drug addicts. I felt bad doing so because I know that addiction is a disease and not a sin or whatever, and that I would raise hell because of this and call a lawyer. As a result, the president of the HOA called me and basically confirmed that they haven't found a specific rule that I would be breaking, but it was more of a general feeling that people had, that I was making them uncomfortable and that shouldn't go on. I asked why they were uncomfortable, so he talked about the fact that they think that I'm letting drug addicts gather at my home, and that would bring crime to the neighborhood. I explained again that the support group is not about addiction, and the members are not drug addicts, and the president said he knew, but some homeowners have trouble accepting it. He confirmed, as I suspected, that there are other things that they have trouble accepting about me, and it's not about drugs. Then I tried my luck a little by pretending that what they are doing amounts to discrimination against people who need mental health support, and they were infringing on my right to peacefully enjoy my property, and was adamant that I wouldn't pay a cent in fines. He said that I seemed passionate about the argument, and he doesn't want to be involved in a legal dispute over this. So we came to an agreement that I would move as many meetings as possible online and only have people at my place when there was no other way, which makes sense in COVID times anyway. In return, the HOA will drop their claim and leave me alone. I haven't heard about them again, so I guess I'm fine. Thanks for everyone's good advice. And now in the comments, Jesus Christ. I can imagine what the HOA neighborhood members had a problem with, and I bet it had to do more with certain superficial qualities of OP. When we bought a house, I was strongly against it being in an HOA. Experience has taught me that nothing good comes from HOAs. My parents are in a typical HOA, with neighbors with more time than brains, and I had to help them fight very similarly petty things multiple times. Finally, the head of my parents' HOA straight up died of COVID or cancer? Can't remember, and I think half the neighborhood felt relieved. Imagine making your life about such petty things that people don't even feel sad when you pass. It is bonkers to me. I wish there was a way that OP could have fined them in return for the harassment and legal fees when consulting counsel. The whole concept of HOAs seems completely crazy to me. We don't have those where I'm from, fortunately. Simple. Run against them and get them fired from the board. I had a buddy that did that. He just baked a bunch of stuff, went door to door, laid out why the board were a bunch of tyrants, and got elected as replacement president. He spent his term dismantling all of the petty rules and replacing it with better services. By the time he moved, they were getting a lot of value for the fees and people loved it. Alright, and that's where I'm going to end the episode today, guys. I do hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.